I think people should try to do the most good that they can. My proposed process for this is to learn about what's going on in the world, to see what you can change, and to keep changing your behavior to match what you've learned. To really nail this into your head, we're going to do an unfortunately wrong call and response, where when I say, which means, you say, I need to figure out how to help others. So let's try it now. Which means,
I need to figure out how to help others.
I view learning as essential because we don't come with a built-in, finely tuned moral compass. In fact, you've probably already changed your mind about various social and ethical issues throughout your life, and you still could be wrong. That's why I want you to keep an open mind throughout this talk, where I give you a relatively unfriendly view of what you should and shouldn't do. I think if we were to do the most good, we'd also do the most good with our resources. I think this means donating as much as you can to effective charities. Some of you may have very little to donate, but most of you, I would guess, have much, much more than you currently do. Throughout this talk, I'm going to try to convince you to center your life around doing good by addressing concerns you may have with donation. At a very basic level, you may be unconvinced that anything is necessarily good or bad, and you may use this as a reason to not feel responsible to help others. It might go something like this. Philosophy is hard, there's no right answer, I'm not obliged. Is anything objectively good or bad? I think yes. Here, objectiveness refers to whether or not personal influence is influencing what you think is good or bad. So I'm gonna make you think about two questions. The first is, which feels better? Being really happy or being really depressed? The second, can anybody who's felt both of those things answer differently? I think no. By the way we experience certain things, feeling happy feels good, and being really depressed feels bad. Our experiences fall along a continuum of felt goodness and badness. On the bad side is pain. On the good side, pleasure. Now, when I say pain feels bad, you may think of seeming counterexamples: BDSM, spicy foods, horror movies. And I agree with the sentiment, but I think that these are overall positive experiences that are enhanced by a bit of pain. So that's why I also don't want a complete elimination of pain. Pain helps us survive and live good lives. Instead, I want the minimization of pain and the maximization of pleasure. No one should be unnecessarily suffering. Do good and bad exist? Yes. And you can feel them. And actually, it's not just you who feels them, which means
I need to figure out how to help others.
Now, this might sound fine in theory, but this is all just theory. Should theory affect what you personally do and care about? You probably care most about the people you love and who you're closest to. But when I ask you to donate, you might have to extend that care to people and other animals that you will never meet. Should you change your personal values? If you haven't noticed, I don't view your personal values as pure and untouchable because I'm actively trying to change them. Let's start with a thought experiment. Imagine that you're in dire need of assistance, drowning in the ocean. You're waving your arms and yelling help. And eventually you feel the most relief you ever have when a boat comes. But when the boat gets close enough to recognize that they don't know who you are, it turns away. The person in the boat yells behind themselves, "I'm sorry, you are theoretically important. You're just not important to me." Once, my dad, my mom, my brother, and I were stranded in the ocean. We were all holding one of our hands onto a floaty that my dad had bought for $1, our other hands pathetically paddling toward land that we could no longer see. Eventually, a boat came by and rescued us. But it still makes me wonder, how many people, even in this room, would be dead without the kindness of strangers? I want you to think about a time when someone's helped you. a coworker, a friend, a family member, a stranger. And I want you to think about how different it could have been if they hadn't. I'd like to invite 2 volunteers to share their experiences. You can raise your hand if you'd like to volunteer.
I feel I have no choice. So, actually, okay, when I was 5, I somehow run into the swimming pool. Don't know why I just jumped into it. It's about 2 meters deep. And I was dying, and then all of a sudden somebody pulled me out of the water. That's my experience.
Thank you so much for sharing. Would anyone else like to share? Angus?
When I was in elementary school, my family and I got into a car accident, and it was in the middle of the night, and we were very frazzled and had no idea what to do. But the people near us came and I think helped us put cones out around our car so that we wouldn't get run into on the side of the road.
Thank you so much for sharing those experiences. My point is, you're not the only one deserving of a good life, and we're extremely interdependent, which means
I need to figure out how to help others.
you might be totally into helping others, but you might see donating as much as you can as way too extreme, and you might feel like what you currently do is enough. I want you to call to mind someone who you think of as greedy or self-interested, and I want you to question whether they think of themselves in the same way. I would guess that they don't. They make some positive impact, and they view that positive impact as enough. I would guess that in almost every case, there is a way to be more effective. And I don't think this means that you have to treat yourself in an unfriendly way. I think we can treat ourselves like friends who we want to do better. One of my favorite parts about learning about philosophy has been to be inspired by people who are trying to do the most good with their lives. There's a community of over thousands of people who donate as much as they can to effective charities, and more broadly are trying to do the most good with their lives. This has been an amazing experience to see, because they're not just fine, they're happy and well, and they find purpose and joy in the things that they do. Basically, I think it's very likely that you could do better, which means
I need to figure out how to help others.
So the last and maybe most important question is, can I actually make a difference? How much would you spend to save the life of your own child? How much would you spend to save the life of a close friend's child? GiveWell, an organization that researches effective charities, estimates that with a donation of $5,000, you can save someone's life. These lives are often of children who are disproportionately killed by malaria. Factory farming's cruel and brutal practices affect billions of animals every year. When organizations lead corporate campaigns to try to change those practices, they're able to make a huge difference, which is why one estimate puts every dollar spent in a corporate campaign at being able to better 9 to 120 years of chicken life. And you may be very concerned about climate change and go to lengths to reduce your own personal carbon footprint. But that carbon footprint is probably around 14 tons of CO2 per year, and you wouldn't be able to completely make that go away. Climate organizations are generally looking at the scale of at least billions of tons of CO2, and there are expert-curated funds for you to donate to them. I'm going to hand you out links that allow you to donate and learn a bit more. Basically, there's so much more that we can do, and there's probably more power that you have than you even realized. Which means
I need to figure out how to help others.
if you were tomorrow to start living your life by doing the most good, how different would it be than how you live today? As you learned, you would donate, but you would also have to look at how things are in the world and how you can change them. You probably came to this talk mostly by chance, and you may have learned something new. But a lot of this information is easily available if you search it out. My guess is you haven't even tried looking. If we want to do the most good, you have to learn about issues in the world, the solutions people are trying to make, and how you can contribute. And I don't think this information will come to you without trying. It's to my disappointment that as you go about your day-to-day after this talk, you'll probably be inundated with messages about how you should follow your heart, and follow your passions, and follow your interests. But you will rarely be told that you need to think outside of yourself, and you need to put time and energy into researching what you can do to make the world a better place. There is so much more that we're able to do, and I'm so excited for you to do it.